I just saw Capitalism, a love story, the new Michael Moore film, and I thought it was great. Really liked it. There is a problem with it that I found. The basic premise behind it, and that is capitalism was the thing that he was talking about. And he was talking about a lot of things, cronyism, corporatism, poor ethics, list goes on and on. But capitalism? I mean, there's a lot of things the movie was about, but capitalism?
You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Think about it. First of all, the movie starts off with a sheriff evicting a family, violently kicking somebody else out of their home, and that's supposed to be the free market. That's not a really good example of the problem with capitalism, or the problem with the free market. I mean, it's a state agent. Then the movie goes on through a lot of other, basically crimes and unethical behavior. And then there's the bank bailouts. That money is money that is stolen from taxpayers, from the government, and then given to the banks by the government. And this is also supposed to be a free market thing about capitalism. And then there's the predatory lending thing, and that's a good point. But a lot of those banks were giving out loans to people that they knew couldn't pay back because they were actually required to do that by law to encourage home ownership. But anyway, in just about every case, there was a cop involved, there was a lawyer involved, there was a judge involved, and there was a politician involved. And this is supposed to be about capitalism. This is supposed to be about the free market. And I'm like, no, I don't think you understand what the free market is. Free market simply means the lack of violence used in transactions. I mean, you are free to buy, to sell, to trade, to give, to take, to work, to slack off, to speak, listen, to create, to volunteer, to negotiate, to ask, to beg, to plead, whatever. As long as you don't force anybody into the transaction and nobody attempts to force you into it, that is the free market. Capitalism is a system that kind of grows out of this. To use an analogy, the free market is the ground in which the tree of capitalism can grow. But you're absolutely correct to point out the problems with our current system. However, I disagree with you about labeling this as, quote, capitalism or the free market. In fact, most of these problems originate with the political system. The gross imbalance of power that we see has nothing to do with people's free association in the marketplace, but rather is enforced through the legal system and a system of property rights which favors the wealthy. Socialism, or state control of the economy, is described as some kind of solution to this problem. You just put the state in control, and then the people will finally get a break. After all, look what we had to do to allow women to vote, to fight for civil rights and more. That all involved the state, right? Right? Well, yeah, of course it did. Because 9 times out of 10, it was the state that we had to fight against. And when the people finally won, some politician claimed victory, and the people saw the state as its savior, even though it was the state that was the hurdle that they had to jump over. Think about women's right to vote. The fact that women couldn't vote was a state regulation. Deregulating meant giving women the right to vote. Look at the civil rights movement. What worked and what didn't? First off, when Rosa Parks was on the back of the bus, who did the bus driver call? They called a cop. But what actually worked? Did they go to the state? The state just helped them out? No. It was a boycott. It was people getting together, fighting the system. And they were threatened with arrest. They were threatened by the state. The state is not your friend. The state is not your friend. It is not the friend of the people. At all. But what about those greedy, cutthroat capitalist pigs? How will we stop them from stealing from the treasury? Or from getting those bank bailouts? Or from suing people out of house and home? Or from sending the sheriff to check them out? How do we stop them? Well, the idea that, you can stop them by making the Treasury more powerful, is idiotic. The idea that you should give Congress more power to pass more bailouts is moronic. The idea that you should give more money to the justice system to enforce its laws, to throw more people into prison, is just plain stupid. The state is the shadow cast on society by big business. If you really hate those greedy capitalist pigs, the state, the government, is their gun. It's their thug. It's their bodyguard. Okay? And you think, oh, well, we're going to get you. We're just going to, give more power to the bodyguard. We're going to give him a bigger gun. This is ridiculous. It's fucking ridiculous. In your movie, you showed a couple of really great examples of people getting together and working for the common good. You had the protests and you had, the sit-ins and everything like that. People getting together and negotiating, forming unions and things like that. I mean, that has nothing to do with the state. It has nothing to do with government. It has nothing to do with socialism. That's the people getting together. And they're not being violent either. They're just getting together and using leverage. That's the free market principle, leverage. And then, you have other people, forming these cooperatives, like the bread cooperative. That's awesome. That is great. That's fantastic. There was another company, I forget what the name of it, but that was kind of a cooperative where the workers owned the business. They owned the company. I mean, do you like this idea? Isn't this idea great? Isn't it wonderful? I agree. I think it's awesome. I think it's great. I think we should encourage it. I think we should all quit our jobs and go find a cooperative and form it, or save up some money, a couple $1,000s, I mean, we can save up that. Save up a couple $1,000s and donate to a cooperative, do it, hey, fight the power. I'm all for that. But it has nothing to do with socialism. This has nothing to do with more government. In fact, one of the reasons why this doesn't happen now is because there are so many barriers to entry that are arbitrarily created by the state. The solution that you're talking about, the solution that you want, this idea that you're holding up in your head, this idea of freedom and democracy and everything else has nothing to do with state control. Your idea where the workers are in control, that's not less capitalism. That is more capitalists.